No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken episode number 542. And breaking today, the Socialist Coup of the Disunited Kingdom government has been completed, with the fake Mr. Nice Guy Burnham preparing to unleash hell on unsuspecting Brits who never voted for communist policies that are going to bankrupt us.
It starts now. I will soon go through that door behind me and issue my first instruction to end rough sleeping in our country. Let us make this the moment when Britain starts to believe again, the moment we bring back hope.
But there is some good news as we come on air today. Chancellor Rachel from Accounts, Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy, both incompetent fools, both brutally sacked by Burnham. Also out Lord Hermer, his Attorney General BFF, who sent Lucy Connolly to jail. That doesn't mean things are about to get better though, because guess what? There was not a single word on the in-go invasion of our country, the scourge of mass immigration, the horror of the Islamist takeover, or the Pakistani rape gang cover-up. So of course, the MSM adored it.
But one, it was a very well-constructed speech, and let's just make the point, that was without notes and not at a lectern. It was quite emotional actually, but it might be just because I also have a son, so maybe I was pouring my mother feelings into it. But yeah, I mean, look, his mum was there, Eileen. It really does feel like a kind of party atmosphere. I mean, people are so excited, they're taking selfies, they're all hanging around.
It does seem that Andy Burnham, he wants to listen to people. He's someone who feels he can connect with people. He is, in a sense, a people's prime minister without being too.
The departure of the country's most hated ever prime minister and enemy of patriots, slippery Starmer, was just a total rewriting of history.
And I am confident that Britain is now stronger and fairer than it was 2 years ago. I go with good grace, I go with a smile, and I go proud of everything that we have achieved. Thank you very much.
No, scumbag. No, you don't get away with that. You left our country poorer, more dangerous, and divided in a way like we have never been before. But of course, there was North Korean-level propaganda from the dying MSM.
Today, that was a celebration. That was fulsome applause. They applauded him until the car had left the gate, and that was a celebration of cheers and hope. And
to come out and to wish Andy well, to say he's leaving with a smile on his face. I was behind him, I don't know if he had one, but I think he probably would do. That just tells you all you need to know about a truly great man.
I would say a decent man. He made the party electable. He dealt with anti-Semitism after Jeremy Corbyn. When Andy Burnham was in Manchester, he was doing the hard yards down here.
Decent, shame on you, GB News. But look, this is all going to fall apart because everything with Burnham up until and including today has just been a carefully crafted PR manipulation for the David Brent of British politics.
He's a special one, isn't he? He's never going to miss a trick. He wanders into some sort of local council building, and there's about 20 people. Their phones are all singing, "And he's coming home. He's coming home." He's got a beer in his hand. It's all manufactured. He does a little dad dance. He's a very, very popular man, and he's he's a joke.
I will reveal, though, why that position will not stand.
That's why you didn't support the rape gang inquiry.
I ordered one, so...
No, you didn't, because
yes,
you covered it up, and you didn't support it.
Take a look at the facts before you...
No, I do know the facts, and the people do know the facts. You didn't, and neither did the Labour government either.
I ordered one in 2017.
So why hasn't it happened then?
Well, it has. Go and read
it hasn't happened at all. You covered it all.
Online. No, I didn't.
Okay, so here is where we stand today. Rachel Reeves, Chancellor, sacked. She claims she was offered another role in government. David Lammy, Deputy Prime Minister and Justice Secretary, sacked. Peter Kyle, the dodgy business secretary, sacked. Steve Reed, Housing Secretary, claims he quit. Uber Starmer loyalist. Liz Kendall, Science and Technology Secretary, sacked. Lord Richard Hermer, Starmer's BFF Attorney General, sacked, and Joe Stevens, the Welsh Secretary, sacked. Now, however, we come to the appointments. And this is what is going to be happening over the course of the time that we are live on air today. So as it stands, we are told that John Healey is back at number 10 Downing Street, waiting at a gate for a meeting. Shabana Mahmood also waiting. Some suggesting the person walking up first could be named Chancellor. So all of this is about to unfold live on Outspoken, and we're going to do it with a superstar panel of independent media sensations you can definitely trust, unlike the mainstream media on today's breaking news. There they are. Host of Lauren, the Insider, Lauren Lunn Farrow. Host of Breaking Embargo on YouTube and The Outsider on Substack, Peter C. Barnes. Host of E Speaks Freely, Emma Dunwell. Host of the YouTube channel British Stand, Dan Grant, and the right-wing influencer and Restore Britain supporter George Gilbert. So they are going to navigate all of this breaking news today. Also coming up on the show, there is some other important stuff going on. Anne Widdecombe's alleged assassin said to have had clippings of Nigel Farage on the walls of his council house. So we'll have the latest on this baffling terror investigation that I think the MSM now want to cover up. And Tommy Robinson and Liz Truss come to verbal blows after the ex-Prime Minister banned the United Kingdom activist and Restore Britain leader Rupert Lowe from her CPAC GB conference. We've got the inside story on this, so we will talk to you about that imminently. Then in the Royal Uncancelled After Show on Substack, huge news on Prince Harry, so we'll team up with the Royal News Network for that. We also have the Greatest Britain and Union Jackass to reveal today. The nominees from our superstar panel. Dan Grant has nominated David Lammy, now sacked as Deputy Prime Minister, but that is because of his legal fight to cover up the true scale of migrant crime rates. Liz Truss, nominated by Lauren the Insider for banning Rupert Lowe, and Tommy Robinson from CPAC, and Lord Hermer, nominated by George Gilbert for continuing to defend the ludicrous handover of the Chagos Islands and his sickening tendency to praise Keir Starmer despite being one of the most hated PMs in British history. George says it shows how out of touch him and his cabinet are, so to think he will likely retain a senior role infuriates him. But, of course, the good news is he has not taken up a senior role. Now, look, this is very interesting. I want to come to this new picture in just one moment. Let's look at this. This from ITV News, woke ITV News. John Healey, the first walking to Downing Street to take on a major role in slippery Starmer's former government and the new government of Andy Burnham. What, of course, we don't know is, does that mean there is a massive shock in terms of the role of Chancellor? But all of that will be revealed over the course of the show. All of the breaking news is coming. But now, let's go. As soon as it became clear that the slippery Starmer project was such a failure that it was about to usher in a permanent break from the Uni Party, the globalist mob had to take action. So today, two-tier Care accepted his fate as Andy Burnham completed a hard-left takeover of the British government in an anti-democratic coup despicably backed by the Westminster elite and mainstream media. The choreography today, though, deeply sinister, with the most hated British Prime Minister in history being farewelled as some sort of hero. Outside number 10, a defeated Starmer tried to reframe his outing as a choice.
Morning. I'm about to visit His Majesty the King to offer my resignation and close the book on my time as Prime Minister. My work is done. It has been the privilege of my life to serve you and this great country as Prime Minister. And I am confident that Britain is now stronger and fairer than it was 2 years ago.
No, you left our country poorer, more dangerous, divided in a way like we have never been in our history. So F off And don't do any more damage, you appalling disgrace of a man who lied right up until the end about how he really feels about Burnham, about the shape of his own family, which he, of course, misled the public about for his entire time in office.
So, as I now pass the baton to Andy Burnham, I wish him every success. He has my full support. And finally, I want to thank once again my family, Vic and our children, my team, all the staff here and across the Labour Party, everyone at Number 10 and across the civil service, and everyone who has supported our efforts along the way. For all the focus on individuals, politics will always be a team sport, and the changes we've delivered for our country and our party belong to everyone who has fought for them. I thank them again today, and I thank the British people for the opportunity to serve. I go with good grace, I go with a smile, and I go proud of everything that we have achieved. Thank you very much.
Proud? You were the man who attacked patriots and then ordered them to be locked up for tweets after the Southport massacre, so spare me with your pride. Yet immediately afterwards there was North Korean level propaganda from an emotional Sly News political editor, Beth Rigby, who squealed through tears with no idea how hated her best mate really is.
What did you make of it? It was short.
It was emotional, wasn't it? Look, the parting words were as I thought they would be. He said, I go with good grace, I go with a smile, and I go proud of everything we achieved. And I think in the pathos of all of this for Keir Starmer, his family, and all of this people in the street who were his people, and the sadness really of that announcement of the resignation, the near tears, he was determined to have something very different here today. That was a celebration. That was fulsome applause. They applauded him until the car had left the gate, you know, and that was a celebration of cheers and hope.
But that propaganda got even worse as Beth dragged in one of the few remaining Starmer loyalists, the dangerous now ex-Attorney General Lord Hermer, who spent his premiership focusing on silencing patriots like Lucy Connolly.
What do you think it says of the character of the man that he is forced out of office against his will, having worked so hard to become Labour leader, get Labour from opposition into power, spent half of his life travelling around the world trying to fix things up, and then he gets booted out of his party, and then he says, I wish my successor every success. What does it tell us about him?
Everything you need to know about him. His dignity and his grace. And he means it. He really genuinely means it. Because for Keir, he will know that one of the measures of what he's been able to achieve is what Andy Burnham can go on and do for this country as well. He knows that. And to come out and to wish Andy well, to say he's leaving with a smile on his face. I was behind him. I don't know if he had one, but I think he probably would do. That just tells you all you need to know about a truly great man.
Sadly, GB News is a craven and captured part of the same MSM these days, with their political editor, Christopher Hope, actually going on air this morning describing Slippery Starmer as a decent man, something none of the channel's viewers actually believe.
Andrew, how do you think history will judge him? He was, I would say, a decent man. He made the party electable. He dealt with anti-Semitism after Jeremy Corbyn. When Andy Burnham was in Manchester, he was doing the hard yards down here.
Yeah, a decent man, but he did throw an awful lot of people under the bus, Chris, to protect himself. You think about all the chiefs of staffs that went, the comms chiefs that went, and that catastrophic decision to hire Peter Mandelson will be probably one of his most grievous errors that he'll be judged for, because that will continue to haunt his legacy, don't you think?
There's no question.
Then the leftist vibes of Andy Burnham, the Northern man, were unleashed on a hapless King Charles at Buckingham Palace. When he made it back to Downing Street, PM Burnham was all vibes again. It seemed his big achievement today, getting rid of the lectern.
So, I am acutely conscious that I am the 6th person in the last 10 years to walk up this street, the 7th Prime Minister since 2016, making this a moment for reflection and new resolution. It requires my generation of politicians to raise our game and rise to the new challenge. Britain needs to show the world that we can regain our stability once again. And that is our challenge, to make politics work, to make it work better.
Oh, but so-called decent bloke Burnham immediately turned on the useless Starmer.
I know people at home are fed up with politics. I hear you, and I want to be honest with you. We have not been good enough, and we need to be better. We will be. We will make this moment a circuit breaker for Britain, bringing forward the biggest changes in the last 40 years. A new political model and a new economic model.
So what's his solution? What is his solution to slippery Starmer's failure? Well, of course, it is a chilling swing to the hard left, reversing the changes Margaret Thatcher made in the 1980s to save this country, while ignoring completely the mass immigration experience introduced by Blair and put on speed by Boris.
In the 1980s, Britain took some wrong turns. Political power was centralised, economic power privatised, large parts of the country deindustrialised, and they still haven't recovered. Many feel as though they're still in decline, and they don't have the ability to turn things around. And that's why we will change politics, to make it more collaborative, more about problem solving than point scoring. And we will take power out of here and carry it into every postcode in the land so that they can do more. And in doing more, build a new economy.
Did you notice what I did? Not a single word on the ongoing daily invasion of our country. Not a single word on the scourge of mass immigration. Not a single word on the horror of the Islamist takeover. Not a single word on the Pakistani rape gang cover-up. Instead, Burnham's only concrete promise on day one was a completely unrealistic pie-in-the-sky goal to end all homelessness.
Can do something to give people some breathing space now, some help with the cost of living. And I will set out some of those measures starting tomorrow, including how we pay for them. We will help people to live well, building a more preventative state, investing in people's success rather than paying for failure. And that work starts now. I will soon go through that door behind me and issue my first instruction to end rough sleeping in our country.
Okay, end rough sleeping sounds like a good goal, right? Do you believe this guy can do that? Well, you shouldn't. Because guess what? I've got the receipts. Rough sleeping figures have gone up in Manchester every year for the past 4 years. Guess who's been mayor for the past 4 years? Burnham. So what Burnham is actually saying, what the translation is that what he is about to unleash is hell, socialist hell. Because his plans can only be achieved by hiking taxes and further destroying the economy.
I will put the care of people at the heart of everything I do. I will give this my all, and I ask you all to pull with me. Let's build a new national sense of unity, of common purpose and positivity. Let us make this the moment when Britain starts to believe again, the moment we bring back hope. Thank you very much, everybody.
I'm sorry, anyone who has hope after that today is delusional. I'll tell you what, I have pure, cold fear. Immediately, though, the propaganda from Labour's Beth Rigby on Sly News began. The woman was so impressed about Burnham speaking without notes that she mentioned it twice. Funny, though, she's not once pointed out in about 15 years that Nigel Farage never uses notes.
Yeah, let's go through that speech. It was, number one, it was a very well-constructed speech, and let's just make the point, that was without notes and not at a lectern. And so one of the things that the Labour Party wanted in Andy Burnham was someone that could communicate with the country, and there was a complete change there. He gave that without notes. He was very expansive, expressive.
Beth then admitted she had been in tears again. I mean, this was just a big loving of parents, happy parents.
It was a pretty emotional speech. I'm going to bring in Beth Rigby at this point. You know, I think the thing that perhaps was the most emotional of all was watching his mum watch him, and then that hug at the end.
It was quite emotional, actually, but it might be just because I also have a son, so maybe I was pouring my mother feelings into it. But yeah, I mean, look, his mum was there, Eileen, and she stood there and she watched her son, and as I said, he blew her a kiss before she started. She blew one back to him, and then he went and embraced her for a very, very long time. And his family, there he is with his mum, Eileen.
I'm sorry, we all love our mothers, but this is the woman who is meant to be holding Burnham to account, when indeed she later admitted she just wants to be part of the Labour Party's street party.
It really does feel like a kind of party atmosphere. I mean, people are so excited, they're taking selfies, they're all hanging around. And look, in the spirit of Andy Burnham doing things slightly differently, he actually did go to a homeless centre at dawn this morning, very early this morning, and on behalf of the broadcast pool, I went along and I interviewed him ahead of becoming Prime Minister about that announcement that he wanted to make.
But Beth was given special access to Burnham this morning at a homelessness shelter where even she had to admit that her new pal's fantasy world of a new political reality of no briefing whatsoever had completely collapsed before he'd even entered office.
For the country.
Can I ask you about that new political model? Because you also talked about unity and bringing the party together and a different kind of politics and leading by example. But in recent days, there have been very aggressive anonymous briefings against Ed Miliband, a close ally of yours, over the Chancellorship. It's upset a lot of people in your party, and it shows really that Labour are more of the same under you, that the infighting doesn't stop.
Well, I just reject that entirely. They haven't come from my team, and I'm appalled at those briefings. I'm appalled at any colleague being on the receiving end of an anonymous briefing. And coming back to Westminster, I kind of see that having gone to another level, and it really does demean our politics. And you know, for me, that is what I'm coming in to change, to get some kind of respect back, some teamwork going. And
but look, we've got to be honest about when we are being manipulated, and we're being manipulated by people who should know better. Back over to Christopher Hope on GB News, who claimed that Andy Burnham, who, as I have said, has just taken over this government in a socialist coup without any sort of democratic mandate, is apparently, and he said this with a straight face, the new People's Prime Minister.
Again, we'll speculate all afternoon about who's in, who's out, but it does seem that Andy Burnham, he wants to listen to people. He's someone who feels he can connect with people. He is, in a sense, a people's prime minister. Without being too Blairite about it, but he really thinks he is.
No, he's not. But what's clear is that the MSM believes it's found its man to stop a Farage march to number 10. But I think treating Burnham like a celebrity, as the Manchester Evening News has done today, will prove to be a big folly. His dad dancing suggests Burnham is the David Brent of British politics, which means he is very close to being found out. As Tommy Robinson put it, state of this wanker. Everything with Burnham, up until and including today, has been a carefully crafted PR manipulation.
He's a special one, isn't he? He's never going to miss a trick. He wanders into some sort of like I don't know, local council building, and there's about 20 people, their phones are all singing, "Andy's coming home, he's coming home." He's got a beer in his hand. It's all manufactured. He does a little dad dance. He's a very, very popular man, you know, and yeah, he's he's a joke.
But let's see what happens the moment Andy Burnham is confronted with actual facts.
Andy, can I ask you why you didn't support the rape gang inquiry?
I ordered one, so...
No, you didn't, because
yes,
you covered it up, and you didn't support...
Take a look at the facts before you...
No, I do know the facts, and the people do know the facts, that you didn't, and neither did the Labour government either.
I ordered one in 2017.
So why hasn't it happened then?
Well, it has. Go and read the
reports. It hasn't happened at all, you covered it up.
Online. No, I didn't.
You absolutely did.
Go and read the reports online.
Well, I mean,
one into Manchester, one into Oldham, one into Rochdale.
Let's just presume that you're telling the truth, that you didn't. So then why the prosecution's not being done from that then? I do know the facts, and you're lying to people. No, I don't need to stand in front of me, thank you. So what's up, are you trying to protect your candidate because you know that I'm telling the truth? That's why you're trying to stand in front of me. Yeah, but I was just speaking to him. Do you have a problem speaking to somebody? Do you have a problem speaking to somebody? Team around, yeah? We're not even being aggressive, but look, you want to walk away. We clearly know that what you've done. You protect them, protect the Muslim bloc vote. But let your little gang hang around, yeah? I can come and catch up with you if you like, but I wouldn't want you to be too scared. You know, like how those little girls were scared? You know, like these little girls that were scared that you covered up the grooming?
Burnham is a liar too, given he, with a straight face, denies he was behind a year-long campaign to unseat Slippery Starmer as PM. At least be honest about it if you expect us to ever trust you.
Ending infighting within the Labour Party, isn't that a bit rich when you've just toppled the outgoing leader?
Well, there was obviously a decision taken by the PLP. It wasn't by me. I wasn't the Parliamentary Labour Party. I wasn't in Parliament. I wasn't in a position to be involved in that in terms of the decisions that the PLP came to. But obviously in politics you have to respond to the big moments, and the May elections were a big moment, but it was up to our members of Parliament, and obviously I then responded.
Lauren the Insider revealed his team has even been hiding his social media history.
Well, the Fabians have been working overtime, haven't they, to rebrand Man of the North, Andy Burnham. So at their Makerfield by-election, when I confronted Andy Burnham and told him what I thought and what many sane people think about him.
Andy Burnham, I just want to ask you on behalf of survivors of the grooming gangs, do you think you've done enough? Let me tell you, on behalf of children that were raped and failed, you haven't done enough. And that is why people are backing Restore. Thank you, Andy Burnham. Over to you in the studio, Dan.
I decided to go through his social media because I knew the cretinous Fabian little bastards would be going through and rebranding him, ready for him to become the Prime Minister. Take a look at this. This is all of the old images from his social media which have now been erased, and now they're trying to make out like he's some polished man. This is nothing but a polished turd. This is the man that enabled the grooming gangs.
But Burnham will have the MSM totally on his side. When the BBC decided to preview the launch of the PM on Laura Kuenssberg's flagship politics show yesterday, they decided to go hagiography only.
He's a man that cares deeply and fiercely defends his family. We know about Everett, we know about his DJ skills. He probably doesn't talk about the time that he was booed off the decks at my birthday party for a depressing playlist. But he's open, he's honest, he's authentic, and I don't think there are many surprises.
They might not know that he's a terrible dancer. I think it's a terrible dancer, but he thinks he's a DJ. There's no quick fix when he gets it to be Prime Minister. It's going to be a very difficult time for him. But I know for a fact he will do his damnedest, and I know for a fact Andy will have a damn good go.
Well, views there from some of Andy Burnham's friends and some of the people who have worked with him closely over the years.
But trust me on this, they said all the same shit about Slippery Starmer, and look at the ultimate Guido Fawkes montage of how that turned out.
Oh my Go
on. Angela Rayner, Deputy Prime Minister, how does that feel? How does that feel, Deputy Prime Minister? Can I just say, if I may, I've never seen a Deputy Prime Minister with the phone strap. I mean, that sort of signifies to me a new era, right? It's just a different type of politician.
I think just having a stable government that will be there for 5, maybe 10 years, who knows, but with sort of ordinary, down-to-earth, serious people talking like the rest of us in charge of the government, and a plan that doesn't shift very much for investment, is going to mean a wall of money coming into this country from around the world. And suddenly, for once, for the first time in many of our lives, actually Britain looks like a little haven of peace and stability.
Angela Rayner has resigned as Deputy Prime Minister.
We're hearing in the last few moments that Peter Mandelson has been asked to withdraw as ambassador.
Morgan McSweeney has resigned as the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff.
Well, the breaking news, Ben, is that Wes Streeting has resigned as Health Secretary.
John Healey has in the last few minutes resigned from the Cabinet.
Al Carnes has resigned as Defence Minister.
I think we have entered the final stage of the Starmer premiership.
This could end up becoming the biggest political scandal of the century.
If there's a leadership challenge from anyone, I'm not going to walk away, I'm going to fight it.
I will resign as leader of the Labour Party.
Okay, big breaking news. Let's get to the superstar panel. So this has just happened in the past few moments. Ed Miliband and Shabana Mahmood walking to Downing Street together. This, of course, would take away a lot of the preoccupation about the fact that there is a divide about which of these two individuals gets the big job of Chancellor of the Exchequer. Perhaps what's most interesting, though, is they were not the first to walk into Downing Street this afternoon. It was actually this dude, John Healey. We're going to find all of this out in a matter of moments, but it is possible that the first rabbit out of Burnham's hat might be that neither Miliband or Mahmood become Chancellor of the Exchequer to replace the sacked Rachel from Accounts. We do also have one other piece of breaking news. Darren Jones, ultimate Starmer loyalist, has announced he has also been sacked from the campaign trail and the TV studios to the Treasury, number 10 in the Cabinet Office. It's been a privilege to be in the Cabinet of a Labour government and to serve the country. Andy Burnham has called to tell me I won't be part of his new cabinet. I wish him and his team every success. So, Peter C. Barnes, it is a matter of moments until we find out. But John Healey entering number 10 Downing Street before Ed Miliband and Shabana Mahmood, how significant do you think that is?
I think it's actually very significant. It's nice to see you, Dan, and everybody. But the way that this is often done is it is done in seniority. So often the Chancellor will go first. Then it's usually Home Secretary, Foreign Secretary. Those kind of positions are always the big beasts that need to be done first. The thing with John Healey, he's liked by most of the establishment. He's liked by the markets. He's a safe pair of hands. In other words, he's the walking embodiment of decline and stagnation, so therefore the markets will like it because nothing's going to happen under him. So it's to calm the gilt market that has already rocketed up just from one speech. The man has already cost the country a fortune, which I think is quite impressive in a way. What we're actually seeing with the cabinet is like the inverse of the Red Wedding at in Game of Thrones, where basically the Northerners are taking out all the Southerners. So yeah, it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, I'm enjoying watching it, but I just know what's going to come next isn't as good. But yeah, I would keep our eyes on this. My thing with John Healey is it was his resignation and the way that he really kind of did it with some dignity that I think will actually have kind of ingratiated him into Andy Burnham's circle, because they're not usually like seen together or have any kind of history, which is odd. There was a rumor this morning, actually, that it would be Pat McFadden who would actually be taking over at number 11. But the thing with the reality of what we've just heard from Andy Burnham will be, who's actually running the show here? Will the Chancellor actually be running the economy, or will Andy Burnham be doing it from number 10? And, you've just got a bit of a show pony outside number 11, for the photo call.
Indeed.
But we'll have to wait and see. But yeah.
And we are about to find out, but of course it could be the possibility of John Healey as Chancellor, Shabana Mahmood staying in the Home Office, and Ed Miliband representing the UK on the world stage, which is just a horrifying thought. But look, Lauren the Insider, sometimes we have to celebrate good moments, right? We are living through hell. We are living through a socialist coup. However, to see Rachel from accounts, to see Calamity Lammy, and to see Lord Hermer, truly evil people who were Starmer's absolute stooges over the past 2 years in government, to see them immediately sacked, kicked to the curb, it is a brief moment of celebration, is it not?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like we're being lured into a false sense of security. What's going on is horrific. I think we have seen the government lie. They're blocking the details regarding migrant attacks. It is going from bad to worse. But the only good thing is they will be their own undoing. And thank goodness our friends and allies in America can see how this is happening in real time, because we are under a Nazi government. They're disgusting. They've hired in hope not hate people. This is torture for good, hardworking people. It's going to be rocky. It is going to be a very rocky road, but cream rises to the top and God answers prayers. So I think we just have to stick together, take a deep breath, and let these absolute cretins make tits of themselves.
Emma Dunwell, what's your first view on Burnham's new cabinet?
Well, unfortunately, I completely agree with what you said earlier about how he is ushering in communism. I mean, not him specifically. I mean, it's been happening for a while. We saw it with Starmer. We've seen it with kind of the way that ideology has taken hold of the institutions. And I don't know if anyone, maybe some people on the panel have seen the video, but an old interview of Yuri Bezmenov, who was a KGB defector. And if you watch that, he explains all of the communist tactics of ideological subversion, and it's literally like holding up a mirror to Britain today. I mean, he's outright admitted and spoken very, highly of the fact that he is all for devolution. That's what this whole number 10 North thing is about. And that is right on the WEF, WHO, all the globalist agenda playbooks. He is following exactly the plan that they want him to. And he's come out straight away saying, oh, I'm a man for the people. Let's get rid of the podium. Let's get rid of the lectern, all that sort of stuff. Oh, shut up. The last thing that we need after Starmer, the guy who was kept banging on about the fact that his father was a toolmaker. By the way, he owns the tool factory, But the last thing that we need is yet another PM to come in who's clearly a globalist WEF puppet to come in and say, oh, I'm a man of the people. It's old and boring.
And that is exactly what I think we've got. And Dan Grant, what was so shocking to me over the course of the morning was to see this rewriting of history from the mainstream media about Slippery Starmer, who was all of a sudden being presented as this honourable man. And it's like, why is he going after 2 years, despite that landslide? Because he is hated. I mean, I am not exaggerating when I say Slippery Starmer is the most hated Prime Minister in British history, yet there was none of that in the MSM today. You'd think he was standing down for health reasons, the way they were talking.
Yeah, it's like rewriting history. I kind of similarise it to WWE, UK politics, funnily enough. But after I seen Prime Minister's questions with Kemi Badenoch almost like getting on her knees, and it just felt all so fake, like she was sending him off. Like it was like, he's done a good job. He's a great man. He's this, he's that, he's this. And she like, I can't trust now where they're going at each other in Prime Minister's questions and actually thinking, do you actually dislike this guy? Do you actually think he's doing a bad job, or is it just all for show? And the same sort of thing is happening here with the mainstream media as well. But Keir is always liking to rewrite history, gaslight the United Kingdom. We've seen it so many times with everything, even from the moments where it sounded like he was going to be getting ousted. He was saying he was going to be fighting. He was going to do this. He's protecting his record. It's just gaslighting. It's all lies just to try and save face. And it seemingly looks like the media are all a part of that as well, to make him look good on his way out.
Yeah, I really did get that sense, George. But unfortunately, I mean, when you've got Beth Rigby, literally they're admitting, George, that she's emotional and she's in tears. And it's like, you're the problem. Because that's why there's been no pressure put on Burnham before this coronation. And trust me, he's going to be letting people down very, very soon.
Exactly, this is it. And this is the bias of the mainstream media, is why channels like yours are booming right now. Good luck to you, because we can't trust reporters who are so one-sided in how they report politics. We've lost faith in the uniparty. We want something different, and all mainstream media is giving us is more of the same old tripe. We're done with it, Dan.
We are. By the way, the breaking news now is that Louise Haigh is on her way to number 10 Downing Street. So she is the fourth most senior person in this government. George, can we just take a moment to think about the hypocrisy of that? Louise Haigh was sacked because she was a fraudster. She is a convicted fraudster. Yet she is being given this massively senior role in Burnham's government. The rumour is she'll become sort of the head of the Cabinet Office, Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster. But at the same time, they're wanting to ruin Nigel Farage because of his association with Posh George, because he was a convicted convict, a convicted criminal. I mean, the hypocrisy of this appointment is quite something.
Oh, totally. And as I've literally just said, it's the same old people, same old parties, same old system. We want something new. If Burnham is so cocky and confident like he's making out, call a general election. Go on, I dare you. Because actually, it would earn him some points with me personally, because I find it courageous to do such a thing. And I don't think he'll win, but politically, I think this would be his best chance to call a general election and be successful. But this cocky aura that I'm getting from him is really starting to annoy me, and it's only day one.
Peter,
yeah,
I have to say, there's been a bit of a makeover for Louise Haigh. It's almost like, if she gets rid of that leftist, do you remember she had that leftist bright red hair? If she takes on this sort of new Orban look, we're just going to forget that she's a convicted fraudster. That's a woman on a mission, Peter. No, you're a criminal. You're a crook. We either forgive people or we don't, Peter. We can't have it both ways depending on what side of politics you're on.
Oh, without a doubt. I find it very funny how many people will keep their phones in the pocket at cabinet. But I do. But I would just pick up on something George said there about holding a general election. I would be very careful about the right pushing for this, because I think he would probably go into minority government, but he would bring in the Greens, he'd bring in the Lib Dems, and we get the Rainbow Coalition. I actually think that if you actually look at most of the polling now, he might not win an outright majority, but he cements himself as the Prime Minister for the next 5 years. I can see that happening by the end of the year as an actual general election. But yeah, because nobody else is actually ready to take him on, because this is the reality of it. He's got the mainstream behind him. He's got the media. He'll have the entertainment world. Let's not forget his first serious interview was with Gary Lineker. I mean, for God's sakes, the man sells crisps for a living. But yeah, I would be careful on that one. But when it comes to bringing people back from the past, it's interesting because in his speech, he said, politicians from my generation. I thought that was a very interesting phrase that he used, and I'm not quite sure where he's drawing the line, because he's not been in Parliament for what, 13 years, and his new chief of staff hasn't been in politics for 16 years. So he is really bringing back the old classics. But yeah, when we're looking at a lot of this, we're just sitting and watching, because we have no idea what's actually going to happen. And that's the big problem. He had this one opportunity to, like you say, Dad, talk about the grooming gangs, talk about immigration, talk about all these issues, and he just fluffed it for an easy, cheap PR spin win, which, fair enough, from the outset, on the surface, not a bad thing. However, the country's got big problems. We need big answers.
Indeed. But I mean, Lauren, seriously, if you've got Louise Haigh, who was a convicted fraudster, and you've got Angela Rayner, both returning to government, I call her Red Rayner, the tax evader. She has not yet walked into number 10 Downing Street, but she is widely expected to in the next half hour. I'm sorry, this is not a new government that can take the moral high ground, Lauren, is the point that I'm making.
Yeah, 100%. Look, it's the same shit packaged up differently, excuse my French. And what we're also seeing with Burnham is exactly what we see from all the others. It is mainstream media and government are the same club. They ping pong between the two. And so we are never going to have anyone fighting for us, asking the questions that we're all sat at home and us for, because the ecosystem that allegedly holds these cretins to account is absolutely corrupt in itself. It's the propaganda machine. And you spoke earlier as well about Beth Rigby and the absolute tosh she was coming out with. Well, they're all heavily briefed when the Prime Minister departs, and they are given lines to toe and to push. But this is exactly the same for every single interview these politicians do. They are absolutely protected. And this is a group of parasitic elites that are draining our country, and it's going into the ground. And this is why the only good thing that can come from this, Dan, is just when you think we can't reach the bottom, I feel like the bottom just keeps having another level put in. This should hopefully make more people wake up, because this entire system needs to be gutted. How many people in that government have covered up the mass rape of children? Children that were 4 years old.
Because Dan, who is the one person who we haven't seen enter yet, Lucy Powell, she is the Deputy Labour leader. David Lammy has been sacked as Deputy Prime Minister. The suggestion, at least, although we haven't had it confirmed, she hasn't entered number 10 yet, is that Lucy Powell might become the next Deputy Prime Minister. Well, what's she most famous for? Going on the British Bashing Corporation and describing the Pakistani Muslim rape gang scandal as a racist dog whistle. So actually, I would argue we're about to get a cabinet of traitors.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting a cabinet of rape enablers, because that's what they are. We are going to be going through a very difficult stage on the right, but we know we have morals and ethics. And what is important is children being correctly safeguarded and getting justice. Everyone in that cabinet has prioritised the bloc Muslim vote over 4-year-olds being kept safe and getting justice. So this is what we are up against. It is not going to be better with Burnham. And what's really interesting as well is he went to do an interview with Gary Lineker, and Lineker's podcast is done with Alistair Campbell. Well, it's Gary Lineker's company. They do Alistair Campbell's podcast as well. Again, it's just one big club to control the narrative, because he's scared. Because if he got put in front of any proper journalist, Dan, if he got put in front of you, he would crumble. And he's never put in front of proper journalists, because none of them can hack it, because they're pathological liars that hate British people.
Absolutely they are. Absolutely they are. A couple of more departures coming in, Emma. These are not big surprises. Jenny Chapman out as Development Minister, Hilary Benn out as Northern Ireland Minister. These were very much people who we expected to go, because they were widely regarded as Starmer loyalists. But it is interesting, isn't it, Emma, that he comes in talking about the end of factional politics. I'm going to change the Labour Party. Everyone's going to be in this big tent. And indeed, he's got rid of anyone who remained very loyal to Starmer to the end. I actually hate all of those people. I mean, because it was terrible that they stayed loyal to Starmer. But the point that I'm making is that I don't think this sweetness and light, this Pollyanna-ish type of situation that he envisaged is going to continue. Do you?
No, absolutely not. I mean, like you said, it's not like any people on the list that have been sacked were particularly liked by any of us, at least not that I'm aware of. But it is, I don't know, it's just alarming, and it's not sitting right with me, as it seems to not be sitting right with everyone else, that this guy has just come in completely unelected. He's just been dropped in like that, and all of a sudden he's making drastic changes that I don't know. I get really, really bad feelings. Even though, like, yeah, that Rachel Reeves, yeah, gone. David Lammy, gone. Who's going to lose any sleep over that? No one. But it's just very drastic and it's happening very, very quickly. And the public have had no say. We've not consented to any of this. And I'm sorry, but I just keep having to say that the word communism because I feel like no one's seeing it properly, and we're heading into very dangerous territory when we start accepting this as the new norm. This is not how a new leader is supposed to be put into number 10. There have been some massive milestones skipped over right now, and it's not looking good.
Dan Grant, there has already been a conversation between Donald Trump and Andy Burnham today. Donald Trump was celebrating, Dan, over the weekend at this idea that all of a sudden Burnham was going to be allowing the full drilling of North Sea oil. Now, if only that were the case, I have a feeling the US president is very quickly going to be let down, although apparently in this first call they did discuss hosting the next G7 in Manchester next year.
Yeah, well, obviously Trump's been very vocal on that being one of Starmer's biggest failures, immigration and, of course, not drilling in the North Sea. Whether Andy Burnham, I mean, I think it's actually quite a good start if Burnham actually went out there and did just allow drilling, gave new licenses and allowed drilling in the North Sea. I think that would take a bit of pressure off, certainly, because it would probably bring energy bills down quite a lot. Whether he's going to do that with the Labour backbenchers, I'm not so sure. Obviously, with Ed Miliband, apparently between him and Shabana Mahmood to be the next Chancellor. If it's Ed Miliband, that certainly isn't going to be the case. But yeah, the thing is I find with the Labour Prime Minister is that Keir Starmer couldn't really make decisions that he wanted to because he's held ransom by backbenchers. And we know that inside the Labour Party, there's a lot of radical lefties that massively oppose drilling in the North Sea. So if he may want to try and do that, but will he be allowed to? I'm not so sure.
I mean, he has invited him to Manchester, George. So it looks like Andy Burnham is going to try and start the same type of, how would you put it, tactic as Starmer did, right? Which is almost pretend to the US president that he's something that he's not a hard left socialist. It's never going to work. Like, eventually, they're found out. So, yes, for a while, Trump played along with Starmer. He knew he was a hard leftist, but he wanted the state visit. By the end, it was a complete disaster. I would almost have more respect for Burnham if he was just honest about who he really is, rather than trying to convince Trump that he's something that he's not.
Yeah, true. I mean, you've got to give a man a break at times because he knows that him and Trump won't agree ideologically on most things, but at least it's an olive branch. He's trying to be diplomatic towards Trump, even though they're probably chalk and cheese. And I'm all for levelling up as well. If he does want to host the G7 in Manchester, good luck. But again, it will be good for the UK as a whole. I'm all for levelling up geographically. But one thing, Dan, that I was looking out for in today's speech of Burnham was how he's going to level up generationally. We're seeing over 1 million young people not in work or education, and that's 11 million people living in Britain of working age not in work. What's he doing to fix that? I mean, he could invest more in manufacturing and industry, which is what most socialist prime ministers you'd expect would do. And that would give high-paying jobs away from China in their solar panel and wind turbine industries and keep them in the UK. That's what I, as a young person, want to see. I want to see these STEM apprenticeships and more opportunities for me, because I've got friends who are really struggling to find good careers. And all I'm hearing is about homelessness. Yes, it's an issue, but it's certainly not top of anyone's list.
Well, of course, and also it's a delusional dream. I mean, politicians through all of time have said that they want to end homelessness. It's not something that's possible. And we've also been told, Peter C. Barnes, that there has been a conversation too between Burnham and Vladimir Zelensky, the Ukrainian president too. Well, actually, I'm a bit sick. I don't know about you, Peter. I'm a bit sick of Prime Minister after Prime Minister just signing away a blank check to Ukraine as well. I mean, if there was going to be some genuine change, and if he genuinely wanted to put more money into the British people, then wouldn't it be about time to tell Zelensky the blank checkbook ends today? But no, apparently he's assured him, Peter, that it's just business as usual.
Yeah, that one was always going to happen, I'm afraid, because Zelensky is basically running the world, it seems to be at the moment. So, I call him Saint Vladimir. The man can do no wrong. He walks on water, he turns water into wine. But I would say when it comes to the homelessness thing, that's a great first policy for a prime minister, because who's going to come out and say, I don't want you to fix homelessness? It's an easy win. It's a first milestone policy. It's PR, it's spin. It's look at the nice splashy headline that I'm going to get. So I don't have to make a decision on the really difficult stuff. I can kick that down the can and, it's only the far right lot that really care about grooming gangs. This is the narrative that is. In the speech, he said it's going to put people, values, and standards, not facts and statistics, and actually doing something and making the country better. This was all airy-fairy nonsense, and Zelensky falls clean into that. When it comes to the kind of what is he actually going to be able to do, the one thing I will say that makes him different is he is the one that has beaten reform. He's the one that gets to say, I beat Farage in a Farage trending seat in the red wall. That will scare a lot of the kind of backbenchers from being as forthright as they were against Starmer, because they can suddenly see, I might keep my job under this guy. I'm going to stick with him. I don't think he's going to face that much of a backlash from the backbenchers on things like immigration and the net zero stuff as much as we would think. He's going to get some pushback. We're not going to get, the borders are still going to be open, but we might close them for half an hour or something like that. But I do think that he might see things to be a lot easier because he's got that narrative behind him. They're about to kind of walk into the Greater Manchester Mayor election as well. So he'll have that narrative behind him, which I keep thinking is building a momentum. And that's why we'll end up with a general election probably by the end of the year. But yeah, all of this is airy-fairy nonsense. Tomorrow, apparently, we're getting all this detail, but I don't think the guy can spell it, let alone know what it means.
It would be a sensible time, would it not, for Burnham to at least prepare the groundwork for a general election by the end of the year, given he's talking about a 10-year plan? He needs a mandate for that. You seriously can't suggest that you are going to institute the biggest political changes to this country for 40 years without any type of actual mandate.
He's a liar. And he's a Fabian. And that is what we need to remember at all times. Respectfully, George, your point about him levelling up earlier, don't fall into this trap. This is exactly what, man of the North, I wear jeans, I drink a pint, I don't have a lectern. You are still a twat, though. And that's Burnham, not you, George. But, he's trying to lull people into that false sense of security. He was all like, oh, I'm not doing digital ID. And then it comes out that anyone who has a job, drives, pays taxes will need a digital driving license. So it's all just being repackaged up differently. What I think is very concerning is he's gone in as well on the whole homelessness. Well, technically, it's a lot easier to crack homelessness than it is spiritual and ritual abuse against children, which has not been updated from the government since 2012. It's gone through numerous governments and they just ignore it, like children don't matter. But Prince William is the most well-known person when it comes to holding that baton for homelessness and really trying to crack it. This is a concern that Andy Burnham has gone in there and attached himself to this area. And it would not surprise me if this is a calculated decision to try and ride on public sympathy and, the fact the public very much support Prince William. Andy Burnham also is like a rat up a drain pipe to stupid celebrities like Noel and Liam Gallagher who have come out and supported him. So he is a Fabian, he's a liar, and if at any point you feel yourself giving him the benefit of the doubt, remember he obstructed justice when 4-year-old children were being raped.
Breaking today. Andrew Pearce axed by the Daily Mail after a KC investigation. Now, this is a story that Outspoken viewers will know I have been following for some time. The mainstream media isn't telling you the truth about the GB News presenter. And have you ever heard of the phrase, a good day to bury bad news? In the midst of a prime ministerial handover, we receive this news that no one's going to be talking about today because they're focused and their eyes are trained on Starmer and Burnham. But here is the reporting from the Westminster website Guido Fawkes, who reveal Andrew Pearce leaves the Daily Mail. Away from the number 10 reshuffle circus, Andrew Pearce has left the Mail as columnist and consultant editor. He will remain at GB News. But I have a lot on this story, which I have reported to you without fair or favour because I do not play by the mainstream media rules. Mr. Pearce, who claims to be a paragon of virtue and loves to judge others in public life, I'm sure you'll all remember his total takedown of his GB News co-star Bev Turner when she suggested that Russell Brand should be allowed to have due process before being cancelled by YouTube, has been the subject of an ongoing KC investigation within the Daily Mail about his personal conduct. Those complaints led to his departure from the ITV morning show Good Morning Britain earlier in the year. But they hid behind this idea that the real reason he was leaving the morning show hosted by Susanna Reid and Ed Balls was because of a change up in the schedule, which would make it too hard to commute from the new Good Morning Britain studio to the GB News studio. Now, again, I reported at the time that that was a lie. Let's just be honest about what is going on here. There is a major cover-up in regards to Mr. Pearce's conduct, and the Daily Mail has decided that the heat is just too much. So why have people been covering up for Andrew Pearce for so long? Is it true, as I am told, that he is going to blame health reasons for his departure from the Daily Mail? And if indeed that is the case, then why is he able to continue presenting his show on GB News? I mean, we saw him earlier today outside number 10 Downing Street alongside Christopher Hope, the Daily Mail's political editor. So, to the superstar panel, and first to Lauren, the insider on this. This news has just broken, Lauren, but why is it that a newspaper like the Daily Mail believes that it can hold other people to account while covering up their own dirty deeds? And does it not, I mean, look, you were a PR expert for many, many years, representing some of the biggest figures in the United Kingdom. Announcing this news, or leaking this news, shall I say, to Guido Fawkes, at a time of maximum political momentum when they know that no one is going to be able to cover this, really does reek of a cover-up, does it not?
Oh, without a doubt. Look, everything that the public get to read, whether it's in a newspaper or a website or on the TV or radio, this is by design. The public are not getting news in real time. And this is a very smart move and a common PR tactic to ensure that it drops down the news agenda. There's very little pickup. And there's a saying in PR, you know, when things hit the fan, pretend it never happened, you just move on. And this is the problem with your mainstream media. They're not reporting like you, Dan, because there's little, you know, he's got mates in other papers and it's one club. They're all together. They're all going for drinks afterwards. They're all hanging around. They're all spending weekends at the Cotswolds together. And this is what makes it so deeply unfair on the public, that their news goes through a system of favours, you know, being hidden and being pushed down. The public are never getting the news in real time from the mainstream media. It goes through this whole process of being chopped, distorted, and repackaged up. And this is exactly why I will never, ever work with the mainstream media again. I'm sickened by it. I'm sickened by the two-tier. You know, these are the people that will tell us we're far-right thugs because we're scared of migrants that are raping people in our communities and we like to hold a flag. But yet they'll never give us the true news. This is psychological torture to patriots all across the board.
Peter C. Barnes, do you think the Daily Mail are just going to get away with this? Oh, and Andrew Pearce has left. Like, we're not going to talk about the KC investigation. Is that possible in 2026 when we have an independent media? And trust me, I know a lot about this story. Obviously, the news has just broken today. But if the Daily Mail are going to partake in some type of cover-up, my gut feeling is not to allow them to do so, Peter. I mean, I revealed last year, and I'm just going to repeat what I reported at the time, that a fellow presenter of GB News has made accusations against Andrew Pearce. Now, you know I believe in due process, Peter, and of course there has to be full due process on this. But again, why is the Daily Mail not reporting on that? And why is GB News not commenting on this? It just feels very hypocritical, especially, by the way, given the way both organisations treated me.
Oh, yes. But hypocritical, again, I don't think they know what the word means. If they go near it, they burst into flames. Because it's about integrity, it's about standards. Lauren's perfectly right. In politics, we call it take out the trash day. In other words, you've got a bit of bad news, something's just happened. That's when you let it out. That's literally what we do. I did it for a living. It's despicable, but it sadly it works. Whether this becomes a bigger story actually depends on GB News, not the Daily Mail, in my opinion. I actually think if GB News make a move to drop him as a presenter, I think that forces it kind of undeniably into the more mainstream and actually into people's homes, and they will start to talk about it. If it's just journalists dropped from the Mail, which is probably what the story they're kind of hoping it might be, then I do think they will get away with it. I do think you're right that the independent media should pursue this. It's a perfect example of the boys' club and like that inner circle of that kind of establishment and the way that they operate together. But again, you're relying on GB News to do something that might harm them. So probably not, I'm afraid.
I mean, Emma Dunwell, this just feels like the tip of the iceberg. But GMB got away with this earlier this year because, again, Emma, I had reported here on Outspoken that there had been numerous complaints to senior executives at ITV, including their new head of news, Andrew Dagnall. And yet he was given, and I know the alleged, how do I put this, the alleged accusers against Andrew Pearce were disgusted that he was given like this fond farewell on air, and Susanna Reid was like, oh, it's just because of timing and here's some flowers. And again, it feels very, very hypocritical of a journalist like her to engage in a cover-up involving her own organisation.
Well, it does feel like, I mean, GB News and Talk TV, they kind of, they position themselves as the channel for the people, but they're still regulated. They still have to toe a certain line. I mean, GB News have now gone full throttle reform. Farage had his own show on there, which, that was causing debate in itself because it was like, well, if he's trying to run for prime minister, should he really be doing, it was I remember that whole controversy. But I think, unfortunately, it's just signs that these channels that are able to create such big platforms like GB News and Talk TV, they are eventually subsumed by the system of the people that they are attempting to replace.
I mean, they're the new establishment.
It's really sad.
They are the new
absolutely.
establishment now. What's also interesting, George Gilbert, though, is how this whole media works. Because, again, this is so bad that it's even a factor. But Lauren knows exactly what I'm talking about here. Andrew Pearce was a very good friend of Lady Rothermere. Lady Rothermere being the wife, right, of the big owner of the Daily Mail group, Lord Rothermere. Guess what's changed over the past few months, George? Lord Rothermere and Lady Rothermere have split up. So there is no longer that same need to protect Lady Rothermere's little best gay mate, Andrew Pearce. Isn't that terrible? It's not how it should work.
True, but with respect, Dan, is it ethical to be talking about an investigation? Nothing's been proven. Andrew Pearce, he seems like a friendly, happy chap. It doesn't smell good, I'll give you that much. But would I want somebody to be talking about me if it's merely an investigation?
Well, no, of course not. And look, I am the biggest believer in innocent until proven guilty. But the problem is when there is a long cover-up that has gone on and this guy has now departed and there is no explanation as to why, that to me doesn't pass the smell test. I mean, look.
True, but if it was really that bad, GB News would have him gone, GMB would have him gone. So I don't know. I think you should certainly monitor the situation, because without voices like yours who have eyes on you, these things do go uncovered. They do go covered up. But until something's been proven, I don't know. It doesn't sit right with me.
No. I totally understand that. And let me bring Lauren in to sort of respond to that, Lauren, because this is always the difficulty, isn't it, in these cases? Because, like, if it wasn't for the Daily Mail, here's the irony, Lauren. If it wasn't for the Daily Mail, there probably would never have been a police investigation into Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Because for so many years, the establishment covered it up, and it was the Daily Mail or the Mail on Sunday newspaper that specifically revealed the picture of Jeffrey Epstein. And, well, was in Jeffrey Epstein's house. Remember, he wasn't actually in the picture. I think he took the picture. But you know the one I mean. Andrew with his arm around Virginia Giuffre with Ghislaine standing there. Yeah, there's the picture. There's the picture. Now, it was the Mail that revealed that picture, Lauren. There was still a 15-year establishment cover-up. So while I completely agree with what George is saying, I believe in innocent until proven guilty. Don't even get me started on the Tate brothers, because I absolutely think there is like an establishment bid to bring those two down. But at the same time, because I know that this story has been covered up for such a long time, and he's now departed from Good Morning Britain, departed from the Daily Mail, and yet there's no explanation as to why, I think it does have to be spoken about. But it is difficult. It is a difficult one.
I think it's likely that you will hear PR spin that it is a health issue. I have no knowledge as to if it is or not. But everything, when it comes down to PR, I've always said there's one narrative, that's the truth, and there's the narrative that's put in the public domain. Very, very, very rarely are they the same. There's, there's never synergy between the two, because you're constantly spinning. It's extraordinary that a mainstreamer who genuinely seems happy in mainstream would voluntarily leave a job at the Mail or Good Morning Britain. I mean, I would rather poke my eyeballs out with a blunt stick than do either of them. But for many people in mainstream, that's the kind of golden egg of jobs. So, if you're asking me in my PR hat, what would I be advising? I would absolutely be advising someone like him to blame it on health. What you want to do is back people into a corner so they can't question it. Now, this is morally wrong. I understand that, but that I'm just trying to lift the veil on what I think the narrative will be that is being spun. And, the public never get the truth done. So, we are saying, yes, of course, a full investigation and the truth and waiting for that is important. But we still have to remember, are we looking at the mainstream media and the judiciary to give us the truth?
Well, yeah, exactly. And also, isn't it sometimes about the way the person themselves has acted? Dan Grant, just before I bring you in, I want to show you what happened that fateful morning on air. Now, the background to this is that a whole number of claims had been made about Russell Brand by the mainstream media. Bev Turner was a big supporter of Russell Brand in terms of his politics and effectively was arguing for due process. And Andrew Pearce roasted his co-host live on air over that. And at the time, remember, I was still at GB News at the time. Everyone was astonished that Andrew Pearce would have the front to do that. And Bev even said on air, I remember it said, I hope you don't have any skeletons in your closet, Andrew Pearce. Let's just watch part of it.
We've got to talk about, because what Jonathan Ashworth was referring to was your tweet, Beverly Turner, at the weekend when you said about, what's his name?
Russell Brand.
You are being attacked. Establishment media don't know what to do with the fact you have 6 million subscribers.
6.5.
And generate autonomous, knowing and original content. You are welcome on my GB News show anytime. Actually, it's my show too. We are mainstream media, but we are not establishment
come on this morning,
media.
we'd have had him, let's be honest.
But we are not establishment media. There's a difference. Keep going. This proves you're winning. You're a hero with a love heart emoji.
Yeah.
Bev, that is shameful.
It's not
That is shameful. That is shameful. You have dismissed, in one tweet, a 4-year investigation by the Sunday Times, the Times and Channel 4 as contemptuously the mainstream media. A 16-year-old girl has complained of being groomed by this man. 2 women have said they were raped, and there are more and more cases coming tonight. And you say you're a hero. Don't you think before you say someone's a hero... Hang on. Don't you think before you say he's a hero, you should establish whether these very serious allegations are true?
Well,
what's the answer to that?
Before I tweeted that, I had spoken to several sources close to Brand, close to the Times.
Had you spoken to those 4 women?
I was confident that there is no smoking gun in this regard.
Right.
I remain confident, having watched the dispatches, if that is what they've got after 4 years of a joint investigation by the Times newspaper and Channel 4, those 4 flimsy allegations from women who choose to stay anonymous, so there is nobody that can counter their version of events. It's nobody who can say, well, hang on, I was there on that occasion. And this is the thing.
Do you have any sympathy for these women?
There are 1.1
million. Do you have any sympathy for these women?
Every year, there are 1.1 million people who are sexually assaulted in this country. Newspapers, like yours.
Yeah. So, Dan Grant, you'll see what I'm saying there. Andrew Pearce didn't believe that Russell Brand was due any due process. It's interesting, isn't it, to see in hindsight?
Yeah, to be perfectly honest with you, Dan, I don't. This is the first time I've heard of Andrew Pearce. I'm
I
not
love
too
that.
Sure.
I love that. You're in the independent media world.
Yeah, I don't know who Andrew Pearce is. Not to be disrespectful, but obviously I do like. I respect the sort of, as George said, I respect the kind of legal process of investigation is ongoing, because the thing is, in the UK, I look at it with the whole thing with Russell Brand and the thing with the Tate brothers. It does smell fishy, but obviously, you don't really know full well what's currently going on behind.
No, indeed. And look, there is much more to come on this story, I am sure, and I will keep across it in a way the mainstream media will not. Breaking right now, the first upset in Burnham's new government. John Healey has just been named Chancellor of the Exchequer to replace the sacked Rachel from Accounts. This absolutely bucked all expectations, with all of the commentary before the announcement suggesting that it was a straight-up fight between Shabana Mahmood and Ed Miliband for the role. So, Peter C. Barnes, that is the first rabbit out of the hat. It's particularly fascinating given that John Healey, remember, in some ways really started the unravelling of Starmer's government when he quit as Defence Secretary. He is now going to be the man deciding where the funding goes. Is this a big shock?
Yeah. To a degree, I have to admit, yes. I was never really a big believer that Shabana Mahmood actually ever wanted to be the Chancellor. She's already very publicly said, and I know Andy Burnham has said in privately, that she wanted to stay at the Home Office. And Andy Burnham had said to her, keep doing what you're doing, just don't make as much noise about it, which I find quite interesting. So we'll have to wait and see where she actually lands. But again, it's for that old phrase, isn't it? Beware of old men in a young man's game. And I think John Healey has just shown he's much more of a political animal than anybody ever thought he would be. Not to mention the fact that nobody in the country really knows who he is. I mean, yeah, this is fascinating. I have to admit, that has thrown every kind of commentary prediction clean out the window. We now have absolutely zero idea where any of this is actually going to go now.
No,
that has really blown a lot of the predictions out the water.
And it's very interesting because Yvette Cooper has just been seen entering number 10 Downing Street 2. Now, she is the current Foreign Secretary, but it feels almost certain like she will be moved out of that post, given that Shabana Mahmood and Ed Miliband entered number 10 Downing Street before her. But this does suggest that she is going to get some type of major role. I mean, maybe in a sign. Look at this. Right at the very start, when she was getting out of the car, she just tripped up. She just tripped up, and I guess maybe she's had a bit of a trip up, being slightly demoted. We also have news coming out of the New Statesman that Louise Haigh is to be appointed Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster and the first Secretary of State. This is the fraudster. LB Ray reporting it's the right-hand man-woman position previously held by figures like George Osborne, William Hague and John Prescott. She will be the first woman to hold the role since her political hero Barbara Castle. She will run a beefed-up office of the Prime Minister, Cabinet Office for Andy Burnham. So 2 roles decided. It feels, Emma, like it's pretty likely, I would say, that Shabana Mahmood stays in the Home Office and Ed Miliband takes the Foreign Secretary brief. What do you reckon?
I honestly, I just echoing what Peter said before. I don't really know what's going to happen next. This is all a bit of a chaotic whirlwind. I do know that I'd like Mahmood out of UK politics as far as possible. I mean, this is the woman that said her goal in politics was to create a digital version of Jeremy Bentham's Panopticon, which is basically like 24/7 surveillance for everything. So I don't know, just the Ed Miliband with the net zero. None of this is going in the right direction. I am terrified of where this is going, and I'm not really sure which direction it's going in, but it's not good.
Well, no, and George, it was always going to be terrible, wasn't it? It was always going to be totally disastrous. And of course, that is exactly how it's shaping up. But there is the official announcement, the first announcement. It is a surprise. It is a rabbit out of the hat. And I think in some ways, George, this was this was Burnham trying to say, see, all of the briefing was wrong. We are starting this new era and we're going to keep things amongst our little inner circle.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to be doom and gloom because it doesn't sound like gauging the room. It doesn't sound like any of us are socialists. So I think if we expect the worst, it can only overperform from there. But considering Andy Burnham, didn't he say he wanted to revitalise how Labour was back in the 70s? Well, an IMF bailout in 76, a sick man of Europe, stronger than government unions. This isn't what we really want, isn't what we voted for, it isn't going to make us prosperous. So, we've got to expect the worst. And even though he's only got 2 years to reverse what he doesn't like to see, and Blair and Brown had 13 years to reverse what Thatcher implemented, I don't think he's going to get very far. But hey, on a wing and a prayer, who knows what's possible? Got to have the faith.
Look, this is a new PR-savvy government, though, Peter, and this is maybe one of the big risks, because look at this, already footage from inside number 10 Downing Street put out via X. So, again, this is going to be a slick PR operation, all vibes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, all vibes, but vibes work. This is the big danger. Andy Burnham was brought in because he was a communicator. He knows how to talk to the public. Keir Starmer was basically a walking spreadsheet that nobody wanted to have a pint with. Bet a lot of people in the country, I'm looking at the polling right now, actually would rather don't mind him as a prime minister. I'm looking at Burnham versus Kemi Badenoch. He's at 30, she's at 25. Burnham versus Farage, 38 to 25. I mean, the guy's PR presence is actually very impressive. It's why he survived so long. But the thing is always delivery. We are a transactional voter base now. We want somebody to give us what we want. We will put up with vibes to a degree. And then, how will it hurt my wallet? And that's what will actually be the decider on whether he stays prime minister.
Yes, indeed. So to just let you know where we are at, huge change after this coup, this left-wing coup by Andy Burnham of the British government. Out include Rachel from Accounts, Calamity Lammy, Lord Hermer, Darren Jones. In, John Healey as Chancellor, Louise Haigh as the effective number 2. She's a convicted fraudster. Let's just pretend that's not happening. And then we also have Shabana Mahmood, Ed Miliband, and Yvette Cooper entering number 10 Downing Street, the first people. They are likely to take on major roles of state. We don't know what they are yet. We will keep on it, so don't go anywhere, because this is one of those historic nights of breaking political news. And look, I agree, we can't be happy about it, can we? It's absolutely terrible. It's absolutely terrible, but this is the reality of what is happening to our country. Breaking today, Tommy Robinson in a verbal bust-up with the former Prime Minister Liz Truss about his ban from the new CPAC GB conference. I've got the inside story on this, and I'm not holding back. I will reveal all to you. But in case you don't know about CPAC GB, it was Truss's attempt to bring the major American razzmatazz to the United Kingdom. CPAC, of course, has become the major Trump backer in recent years, and it's a really, really successful event. I had previously attended CPAC in Australia, and it was a brilliant event. Problem is, CPAC GB and its launch, as much as I wanted it to succeed, and there were lots of you there, and I was absolutely delighted to go and speak on stage and truly reveal what's really going on. Unfortunately, CPAC GB became a bit of a pro-Reform UK propaganda event, and as a result, didn't really sell many tickets, with journalists like Latika M. Burke reporting that in a contest with yesterday, day 2 of CPAC GB seemed to be even fewer in attendance. And these videos of empty chairs did go viral all over the internet.
Every year that grow to punish supply growth. The unit of account we use is flawed. And I'll show you what I mean. Here we see, this is the price of oil going all the way back to the 1980s, when oil was below $5 a barrel. And you can see the price of oil was volatile, but broadly speaking it goes up and up and up. And a few weeks ago the price of oil was $100 a barrel. And here we see the price of oil measured in...
Now that's a shame. This should have been a great event. And one of the problems I think with Liz is sometimes she doesn't understand why things aren't working, because in her closing speech she just vowed to go on.
What do you think, Liz?
I think it's been brilliant to bring CPAC GB to fruition.
Well, that's embarrassing, isn't it?
And I always wanted to have one here because I think it's so needed. Our country has been taken over by the progressive blob, and we're only going to be able to fight back by building a movement.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I completely agree with that, Liz. It is so needed. But why was CPAC in America such a big deal? Because it brought together all of the right, and it allowed all of the right to have truly interesting, fascinating debates and conversations. Whereas what you did with CPAC GB was, I believe, turn this into some type of pro-reform event, seemingly because you want to at some point leave the Conservatives to join Nigel Farage's party. And in fairness to you, you also knew that if you opened up the event to other rivals to Reform UK on the right, that Nigel wouldn't attend and give you the big moment of his keynote speech. But the problem is, as soon as people find that out, it's not a good look. And again, I have the inside story on this because I warned Liz and I warned Matt Schlapp, the boss of CPAC, of this exact result if Tommy Robinson, the Unite the Kingdom activist, and Rupert Lowe, the Restore Britain leader, were to be left out from proceedings. But that is what happened, and Tommy Robinson went public with his feud, writing, "Hi Liz Truss, can I ask why I was removed from the CPAC dinner? Charlie Kirk wasn't a coward and despised political correctness." Now, the reason he's invoked Charlie Kirk is because at the CPAC GB dinner, Charlie Kirk won their big inaugural prize. And remember, Kirk was a huge fan of Tommy Robinson. I'll also point out that Tommy Robinson was meant to be sitting on the Outspoken table at the dinner. Turning Point UK replying, interestingly, this was Charlie Kirk's response when he was first asked about Tommy Robinson in 2019 during a Turning Point UK event. Charlie believed Tommy Robinson shouldn't have been jailed and stood up for his freedom of speech. Watch.
2 weeks ago, there was a march outside the BBC Manchester by Tommy Robinson, Panodrama. He's going to be in prison very soon because of that. They're fighting back and they're fighting dirty. We need to combine, unite, and fight back.
And we've seen it work in the States. We've seen voices that can be considered fringe, and you allow more speech and you have more people be discussed, not lock them up because they're in front of a courthouse filming something, and you guys know the details better than me. If you disagree with someone, that doesn't mean they should go to prison. I mean, that's an unbelievable thing that's happening in this country, which is so sick and so scary. And we have a test case in the United States which works, and we have a marketplace. Well, we have a marketplace with ideas generally. The left is trying to change that. So even though you might disagree with people, fight the death for their right to say it.
Absolutely. So Charlie Kirk, who won the award at the event, would have been horrified about Tommy Robinson being excluded. And by the way, so was Pauline Hanson, the star Australian politician, the One Nation leader currently leading in the polls in Australia, who was at the event and actually even invoked Tommy Robinson on stage. Watch.
Just last week. Well, wasn't that a rude awakening to me, for myself, to go there? I felt I was in another country. I didn't believe this was England. And then I went up to Luton with Tommy Robinson. You know, I'm getting the feedback in Australia from the media saying, how dare I associate with Tommy Robinson? How dare I speak to him? How dare I go up to Luton to see what's happening there? Every time I've spoken about the high immigration and Islam in Australia and Sharia law and the imams and those ones on our street spewing their hatred, radicalisation that's happening in our country. There's 18,000 people under surveillance in Australia, 18,000 people. Asia, who is equivalent to your M5 here, they've actually come out and said they can't guarantee we won't have another terrorist attack. We just had Bondi last December, 15 lives lost. That's what is happening in Australia. And because I dare speak up against it, because I came over here to see, and I keep referring back to England all the time in Australia, do I want our country to become like England? No.
Now, there has been a lot of anger on the right about the decision by CPAC GB to exclude key parts of the right. Herd Immunity News explaining Liz Truss and her guest speakers are now finishing their inaugural CPAC event at the O2 in London, and congratulations to her and all who attended and took part. There were, for me, some very notable absences and lack of right-wing voices from across the political vista representing the UK. Why was there no Rupert Lowe, Godfrey Bloom, Andrew Bridgen, Nick Tenconi, Ben Habib, David Vance, Tommy Robinson or Katie Hopkins invited to speak? I am biased naturally, as several of the aforementioned have been guests on Herd Immunity News, but you see what I mean. Or is this a futile non-starter? All of these patriots would present an incredible side to the right of the political spectrum and certainly give an accurate, intelligent and passionate account of the changes required to stop the UK sliding off the proverbial cliff. Perhaps an alternative to CPAC, like Patriotic Action Conference, could be organised so these great Brits and others could rally the non-centrist right-wingers. And our superstar panellist, Lauren the Insider, responded directly to Truss when she revealed the event will take place again next year, posting, "I wouldn't bother, Liz. This year you showed your true establishment streak by banning Tommy and Rupert. You're either part of the establishment or you're not. Don't worry about answering that question. Your actions have." And Lauren, the thing that is so sad to me about what happened with CPAC GB is that there is no need, there is no demand for just another Reform UK conference. Whatever you think of Reform UK, whether you're pro-Reform UK or against Reform UK, I don't think you can deny that Reform UK do brilliant events, right? With razzmatazz and fireworks, and they do them well. And that's where the Reform UK people go and plug Reform UK and talk about why Reform UK is the only option. The whole point about CPAC is that it's meant to unite the right. The only way that you're going to unite the right is by allowing all of the right to speak. And I was really one of the only guests who got up on stage, Lauren. And it's why, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I thought long and hard about whether I should attend the conference. But in the end, and I made this very clear to Tommy Robinson directly and Rupert Lowe directly, because, you know, I asked both men to be on our table. And I decided that it was more important for me to be there to actually talk about Rupert Lowe and Tommy Robinson, because no one else had on stage. And Lauren, when I mentioned Tommy Robinson, there was immediate applause from the audience.
Yeah, I mean, of course. This is the problem though, Dan. We've got, and I think, look, Reform do some great things, but it goes back to this point that sets my alarm bells off. You're either part of the establishment or you are not part of the establishment. We know Tommy and Rupert are not part of the establishment. That is why people trust them. They have spent years showing people how toxic the establishment is. But Nigel didn't stay for the dinner. It was rumoured that it was Nigel that had, ensured Liz had banned Tommy and Rupert. This is just not acceptable. And I think a lot of people on the right think, well, you shouldn't call other people on the right out. No, that's absolute tosh. At the end of the day, we need to drain the swamp. This is a really shady move by Liz Truss, and she could learn a thing or two. She sat in her garage doing a podcast as a former Prime Minister, obviously got millions behind her. We know she came out of government, very well off financially. If she wants to actually ask someone about how to organically start a movement, how about she start with Rupert Lowe and Tommy Robinson, two people that don't have the establishment behind them. Liz Truss has proved she is a gatekeeper, and it's incredibly disappointing because when she's done interviews before, I've thought, I really respect you, Liz. But at the end of the day, I don't want the same establishment packaged up differently. Now, we saw Farage on the Trigonometry podcast talking about how awful the deep state is and government censorship and being ostracised and these kind of tactics. Well, I would argue this is exactly what has gone on against Rupert Lowe and Tommy Robinson. And I think it's disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, Peter C. Barnes, look, you were there on the Outspoken table on Friday night, and it really disappoints me that Liz has gone down this path, because I think she had such a chance with CPAC to prove that she was bigger than party politics and that there was a wider mission. I did note, though, Peter, this from an interview in the iPaper that the UK Dispatch actually picked up. Liz Truss refuses to rule out joining Reform UK. And I do wonder, Peter, if that is the issue, because you know better than I do that with Reform UK, you're either all in or you're their enemy. But if Liz just wanted to join Reform UK, then this wasn't the right thing to do. Do you see what I mean? She should just go and join Reform UK. But again, I don't think they want her, to be honest.
Well, that's the key point, is that I think she has tried this before, actually, to join Reform, and she basically got told no. Even for them, she was too much of a Tory, which I find funny because they got Robert Jenrick and Suella and all the rest of them. But the reality was, this doesn't surprise me, because this was just basically another Reform conference. It was, look how wonderful Nigel is. Everybody bow down to the great master. Bow down, do as you're told. He's Saint Nigel. It could do no wrong. Because fundamentally, the reason Tommy wasn't there, the reason Rupert Lowe wasn't invited, at Katie Hopkins, is Nigel is a bit of a coward. He doesn't like to actually answer questions. He doesn't like to get second billing. He doesn't like to share a stage. He doesn't like what CPAC actually is. And it's not fireworks and fanfare. It's detail and it's policy. It's actual hard yards of politics. It's not just everybody hold hands and go for a drink in the bar. That's Reform Conference. That's uni-party stuff. That's what I've been doing for years. What CPAC in America in particular actually is people who genuinely know what they're talking about, actually talking about serious things. It's not headlines and, look how wonderful I am because I could do a speech without a script, which everybody fawned over, but now we don't like it when Andy Burnham does it. I can't help but notice that little bit of hypocrisy. But this is the reality. Tommy brings with him an audience. He brings with him a force majeure reality. So does Rupert Lowe. So does Katie. So do lots of other people. If you want to unite the right, it's all of us. It's not just the ones that will bow down and do as Nigel says. What the Reform Party have been asking for a long time is not unite, it's submit. It's do as you're told. We're in charge. They don't want to tear down the establishment or the uni party. They are the establishment and they are the uni party because that's all they know how to do. They just wanted to get rid of the Tories and replace them, not tear it all down and build back better. What they wanted was just, the petty little school the people who were bullied at school basically finally got a bit of power. That's what Reform UK has always been.
Then we come to the rest of our superstar panel, who are all young, independent media sensations who really CPAC GB, I think, should have been trying to attract. But Dan Grant, I heard from a lot of your contemporaries saying, oh no, this just felt too Westminster and there was nothing sexy about it. What was your view of the conference from afar, Dan?
Look, listen, I mean, I didn't watch the conference or anything like that, but I've obviously heard of CPAC and what it's all about. But I just want to play devil's advocate, I suppose, to what people are saying. And again, this is no like bad saying of Tommy. I really like Tommy's work and I really like what Rupert Lowe does. But the thing is, the mainstream media have done a great job. That majority of people in the United Kingdom, the name Tommy Robinson is still radioactive in like I suppose just to the layman, the normal, like just people that are not on the right, not on the left, they're just in the United Kingdom, because the mainstream media have done a great job. And I've seen where Nigel Farage and Reform, they just don't want to be associated with his name due to that blanket of then going, oh, that Nigel's at an event with Tommy Robinson, so that means that they're like, this is just another sort of bat to hit the Reform Party with. I feel like Nigel's not necessarily wanting that risk to take.
And he's even boasted about turning down Elon Musk's funding because of it.
Yeah, so obviously I see Nigel and Reform's point. I don't necessarily agree with it because I think Tommy and everything is misconstrued. I don't think he is the person that the mainstream media have made him out to be over the last 10, 15, 20 years. However, if you look at people that don't take an interest necessarily in politics, the people that just know of Reform, sometimes Tommy Robinson's name is still radioactive. And to try and persuade them that he's not radioactive, I think Reform have taken that sort of route that they just don't want to draw a conclusion where it's like, oh, Tommy, Nigel on stage together. So then they just make this story, and then I just think it's bad optics for the Reform Party. So I think it's just PR management, the whole thing with regard to Tommy Robinson. That's why he avoids him at kind of all costs. As for Rupert Lowe, I just think that's because they're rivals now, and that's just kind of how it is. There's sort of no love lost there.
And the thing is, George, if George Gilbert, you're obviously a Restore Britain supporter, previously a Reform UK supporter, one of the many booted from the party. But isn't the point, George, though, that you can't just pretend, if you're hosting a conference about uniting the right and building a movement, which is what CPAC GB was meant to be, you can't just pretend like Tommy Robinson and Rupert Lowe don't exist. And I have to be honest, that's what I felt like attending the conference. I literally felt like Tommy Robinson, Unite the Kingdom, Rupert Lowe, Restore Britain are just not even part of the right. That's what the conference was trying to present. Well, my argument is, well, in which case you're never going to unite the right. If you genuinely just act as if those two figures are not part of this conversation, then it's not going to work.
Exactly. And what you notice with figures or organisations calling to unite the right is that what they actually mean by uniting the right is dragging what's perceived to be the far right figures in politics into the centre and moderate right. But that's not where the momentum is. That's not what the people want. We want change, and we do want something a tad bit more radical, because the current system hasn't worked, and we've had centre-right Conservative Party policies ruling us for 14 years, and they all failed. But you mentioned earlier that you wouldn't see this type of thing in the States, that they're a lot more liberty-driven. But even then, I challenge that, because CPAC in the States exclude the likes of Nick Fuentes and his America First movement. I'm not endorsing them, but they're bloody big. They're growing faster than any of these movements. And that's what a lot of young people are consuming now, content-wise. He was banned from CPAC in the States, and so was all of his fan base. So actually, that's why all of these organisations are fundamentally unserious. They don't care about the true right. They care about maintaining the status quo. And that's why I didn't bother going myself. Sick of it.
That's a fair point. That is a fair point. And absolutely, I mean, there have been huge schisms on the right in the US, and Matt Schlapp did admit that. I mean, CPAC was one of the only organizations that stayed loyal to Donald Trump, but they did invite, over the course of many years, all of Donald Trump's rivals too. But I do hear what you're saying about Fuentes. Emma Dunwell, who do you agree with on this?
I think that Truss is being completely hypocritical. I do understand the perspective of kind of, I guess you could call it, needing to play the game in order to try and get sort of a right-leaning common sense back into mainstream politics. However, yeah, as I said, it's really, really hypocritical because she was the one who came out and said that Starmer was absolutely out of line for banning people and banning people's visas when they were coming for the UTK rally, and to kind of display the same behaviour just to cozy up to reform. Is it worth it? And two, she'd been garnering this opinion of herself that people had started to see. Maybe she's challenging the deep state that we've all been looking at for so long. Maybe she's really, maybe she's doing something worthwhile. And this has just completely ruined it. She's completely ruined her own reputation, unfortunately. And I was really excited when I heard that CPAC was going to be coming to the UK. I didn't end up making it, but now, fortunately, I'm realizing because I had other commitments. But yeah, no, it's a real shame. It's complete hypocrisy, regardless of who you like, whether you like Liz Truss, whether you like Tommy Robinson, whether you don't. You can't deny that saying that banning people's visas from coming to the UTK and then banning people from a right-wing event that is supposed to be about freedom of speech is not essentially the same thing.
Thank you so much. Breaking right now, more appointments in this Burnham government. These are significant. Ed Miliband is the new Foreign Secretary. Shabana Mahmood has been reappointed as the Home Secretary. And as expected, Louise Haigh takes on that major role as the First Secretary of the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster and the Minister of the Cabinet Office. So the mystery is solved, Peter C. Barnes. The mystery is solved. But actually, is this really an inspiring move, keeping Mahmood in the Home Office? I don't know.
Basically, the thing with Shabana is that people go, she's all right for the left, isn't she? I mean, I appear on things like Talk and GB, and you hear it again and again and again from callers and from people involved and all the rest of it going, well, she's making the right noises, she's doing the right things. At least she's trying is the phrase that is often followed by her name. It's like back in the day when people say, oh, they're all right for a Tory. But Shabana's all right for a Labour Home Secretary. But yeah, I have to admit, she's not particularly inspiring. She's actually one of the reasons we have sectarian politics very firm and central in our politics, because when she was running Labour campaigns, she basically made it part and parcel of their entire national campaign strategy. So people often forget about that one. You have to remember Ed Miliband as Foreign Secretary. Foreign Secretary isn't really what it used to be, because everyone remembers, well, rather the point that nobody remembers, Yvette Cooper was the current kind of Foreign Secretary, and most people couldn't even point her out of a lineup at the moment because she seems to have been AWOL. So realistically, the Prime Minister's taken over the vast majority of the foreign minister's rule. But he had to have something. He still has a lot of sway in the Labour Party. He has a lot of sway with the backbenchers, and he's got at least something in his head at least. And let's just all be thankful that he's not the Chancellor. This is the only good news out of today for my tax bill and everybody else's tax bill at home watching this. Your taxes are a little safer now. Ed Miliband is not near number 11.
Lauren, what do you think?
I mean, Shabana's not going to leave the Home Office, is she? I think she's cemented her feet right in there. That's what I think is so scary about this as well. She has said Islam is at the heart of everything that she does. We've heard her before as well. She's spouted the most disgraceful anti-Israel rhetoric. This is what I find so concerning, is that she is still there in the Home Office. This is a massive, massive problem. This is why I don't believe Islam should be in politics.
Emma?
I completely agree with what Lauren just said. We shouldn't be having someone who says that Islam is at the core of everything that they do in UK politics. I mean, I'm sorry, but you wouldn't go over to, I don't know, let's say Nigeria and start complaining that there's not enough British people in the government over there. I mean, it's weird. I think that it's bizarre that we have these, I don't know, kind of quotas of diversity that have allowed us to get to the point where we have to ask questions about, like, you know, about a person's idea of Islamism, or maybe what or might not be radical in a very high up position in government. It's really, really concerning. And until we start actually putting the power back with British people, English people, and there is a definition of that. We are a people. It's Europe. It's okay to say that. Yeah, we're going to keep having the same problem.
Breaking right now, in the past few moments, a man has been charged over the murder of my friend Anne Widdecombe. This is a major update from the Crown Prosecution Service that have named Joshua Kerry, who was pictured for the first time over the weekend, and revealed that he will appear at Westminster Magistrates Court tomorrow. Let me read you this statement from Frank Ferguson, Chief Crown Prosecutor of the CPS Special Crime and Counter-Terror Division, which has been released in the past few moments. We have decided to prosecute Joshua Kerry for murder following a police investigation into the death of Anne Widdecombe in Hayter, Dartmoor. Police enquiries into the defendant's motives, including whether there is a terrorist connection, are ongoing. Our prosecutors have worked closely with the police to establish that there is sufficient evidence to bring this case to court, and we will continue working with them. It is vital there should be no reporting, commentary, or sharing of information which could in any way prejudice these proceedings. So, Lauren, the insider, we know what happens here, don't we? So here we go. In the independent media, we have been reporting on this in a way that the mainstream media did not. For example, I reported here on Outspoken before anyone else that this man had been caught with communist literature. Nigel Farage confirmed that over the weekend in an article in The Sun. Now, given at this stage he has still not been charged for terrorism, there is going to be a grey area about what can or cannot be said. But what you see in these cases, Lauren, on the whole, is people erring on the side of caution. And I believe the intent here is now to shut down any type of further reporting about the truth of Joshua Kerry's political motivations. Even though, Lauren, at this point, he has not been charged with terrorism. He has only been charged with Anne's murder. But we have to be careful.
If he's charged with terrorism, they'll drop that on a day when, you know, someone dies and it'll go right to the bottom of the news agenda. Look, talking of the terrorism aspect to it, I broke the news on X, 2 days before it was told to the public that the counterterrorism squads were there and were being deployed. Another one on, the Monday just gone. This news wasn't being brought to the public in real time. That's why I put it out. It's interesting that it's widely circulating that there was an article on Hope Not Hate's website about Anne Widdecombe, a disgusting article that then swiftly got taken down. It's been reported as well that there were allegedly clippings of Nigel Farage on Joshua Kerry's wall. At the end of the day, I don't think we will get the truth done from the establishment and from the police. And I go back to the point, are we supposed to sit here and trust the institution whereby we saw Sarah Everard raped and murdered by them? Are we meant to believe the institution that gang raped children in the grooming gangs because the police in the testimonies were named? I have no faith in the judiciary whatsoever. I would love nothing more than to come on to the show again, Dan, and say, you know what, I got it wrong. The police have done an excellent job, but until that point, I will keep erring on the side of caution. This is not an institution that I believe is on the side of justice and the people, in my opinion, because at the moment, guys, it's still allowed to, we are still allowed to have an opinion in the UK. Come tomorrow, who knows? We could all be in lockdown, under detention, under Burnham. But until then, I will keep saying my opinion loud and clear.
But Peter, the whole point of this statement is to shut down any type of commentary around this. Yet he has only been charged with Anne's murder. He has not been charged with terrorism at this point. So to me, that is a grey area. Do you believe it's still appropriate to talk about his political motivations, given he has not been charged with terrorism?
If he's not been charged with it, we can say what we like. That's the rule. That's what they like to say. So we'll follow their rule. That's the thing. We're not breaking any laws apart from the ones they set. What I will say, what we also should be talking about, is why has the chief superintendent of Devon Police still got a job? What was the investigation?
They arrested the wrong man. They arrested the wrong man.
They arrested the wrong man.
A delivery driver, according to Mike Graham.
Every single element of this investigation has been catastrophic from day one. Who's getting fired? Who's being held accountable for this absolute shit show of an investigation? And I apologize for swearing, because it's abhorrent. Nobody gets fired anymore. You want to bring back the trust that Lauren is rightly saying the public does not have. You start holding people accountable for their shitty job that they do. It's about time people were given pink slips, boxes, and shown the door. You want to restore
100%.
faith? That's how you do it. And it has been the rule from day one that we live in a consequence-free Britain. These people get to run around, do what they like. They get retired or they get shuffled out of the room and they get the pension and walk off into the sunset. I use him all the time as an example. Michael Stewart, head of Prevent, 3 times could have got Axel Ruda-Cabana. That man got given his pension. Southport still reeling from it. He's living on the beach earning 30%. It's absolutely despicable. So I think fair enough. If they want to shut down the conversation on that, let's talk about the police. Let's talk about the people who are supposed to be keeping us safe. Because quite frankly, I don't know a single person in this country that genuinely feels safe, political or not.
And they came out when the alleged murderer was still on the run. And they told us, don't worry, we've got the white guy. You're totally safe. No, it wasn't him. It was never him. Emma, look, I have also felt pretty convinced over the past few days that the mainstream media just want to shut down this story. That they would use any excuse, Emma, not to lead on Anne Widdecombe. It's like the most famous murder in modern British history. And they're pretending as if it's some type of small fry story. It's basically dropped out of the mainstream media news agenda altogether.
I entirely agree. Everything's been taken over by Burnham this, Burnham that. But yeah, no, meanwhile, there has been an elderly lady who was loved by so many, who has been an absolute titan of politics, who has been murdered in a clearly premeditated, well thought out attack that we're now speculating could have been terrorism. There's talk of communist paraphernalia. All of these different things are just... it's so obvious, because this is exactly what is not the party line, the mainstream narrative, which is exactly why we're not seeing
Emma,
the same
I'm just going to interrupt, because the police are giving a press conference on this news. This is the counter-terror police at Scotland Yard.
Sorry to interrupt once again. We're going straight to Scotland Yard on a police statement.
I'm Lawrence Taylor, Assistant
the murder of Anne
Widdecombe, head of National Counter-Terrorism Policing. I'd like to start by offering my deepest condolences to the family of Anne Widdecombe and to everyone who knew and loved her. The impact she had on political life in this country has been clear to see since her death on the 8th of July. I hope some of the tributes paid over the last week have been of comfort to her family, who are also being supported by our specialist family liaison officers. Earlier today, detectives from Counter-Terrorism Policing were informed that, following a submission of evidence to the Crown Prosecution Service, charges have now been authorised. We have charged Joshua Kerry, a 28-year-old British national of Burley Road, Rotherham, South Yorkshire, with her murder. He is still in custody and will appear at Westminster Magistrates Court tomorrow morning for his first hearing. It remains the case that we are not looking for anyone else,
in connection with this incident. I know there has been significant interest in this case, and rightly so. I want to make it very clear that our investigation into this individual, determining his motivations and any wider activity he may have been involved in, is continuing. Given Anne Widdecombe's profile and the targeted nature of the attack, determining the motivation, including any possible political motivation, remains an active avenue of investigation for our detectives. And as with all murder investigations, understanding the why is a key part of our inquiries. This has been and remains a particularly intensive and complex investigation. Over the last week, our teams have gathered a huge amount of information, leading to over 800 lines of inquiry. Each of those needs assessing carefully and thoroughly, and I ask that we are given the time to do that. Should counter-terrorism policing identify any further offences, we will liaise with the Crown Prosecution Service and submit evidence where appropriate. As always, to ensure the best outcome for victims and their families, we must do this right, not just quickly. And I reiterate my ask for the support of the public in this. I know many have been understandably concerned about their own safety after this horrendous attack, particularly after hearing about the nature of the attack she endured in her own home. We're working closely with the Speaker of the House and the relevant authorities to ensure elected officials are aware of what we have in place to protect them. As criminal proceedings are now underway, and to avoid undermining the judicial process, we will not be making any further comment on the investigation unless absolutely appropriate. I would like to thank the public, the media, and those right across the political spectrum for their engagement and support whilst we progress this challenging investigation. I ask for patience as our teams do their work. Thank you for your support.
Okay, so that is Lawrence Taylor, the head of counter-terrorism at Scotland Yard, making the point that there are 800 lines of inquiry, potentially more offences. Critically, are not looking for anyone other than Joshua Kerry in the murder of Anne Widdecombe. And George Gilbert, shut up, basically. Shut up, say nothing. We're not going to say anything. That's the message out of Scotland Yard.
Exactly. This is the epitome of the distrust the public has had, not only in the media, but in our public services. It's coming just months after the high-profile murder of Henry Novak, and it doesn't seem like any action was taken to resolve that from happening in the future. And it's the same story here. It's all we get is this word scramble, all thoughts, prayers, da-da-da-da-da. We're going to see the same thing happening in probably a few weeks' time to some other misfortunate public figure, because no action is ever taken. It's just words after words, and we're sick of it, Dan. We want action.
We are indeed. Some more breaking news. Angela Rayner has just arrived at number 10 Downing Street. That means Red Rayner, the tax evader, is getting another job. Getting another job in this government. So I'm sorry, anyone who says that Burnham is cleaning things up is absolutely delusional. Fraudster Louise Haigh taking one of his most senior roles, and now Red Rayner, the tax evader, taking one of his most senior roles. Lots of feedback from you today. Mr. Sard says, of course we're being lulled into a false sense of security, but admit it feels really good to read Rachel Reeves and David Lammy sacked. Yes, it does. and that's the point that I was making earlier. Nyla Rock says, Beth Rigby is a reason no one should listen to the MSM. All stupid liars. Suzanne Litherland 698 says, David Lammy, he has ruined our country, and the rest of the clowns now, they are walking away. Bastards. Viper 44 says, I fear Trump is unaware to what has truly been inflicted upon us. And Johnny Favourite says, CPAC US has the power and money of the Republicans behind it. The UK is small time. And obedience is key. Says psychological torture, as was mentioned, is greatly underestimated. and severe cruelty. That was the point, of course, made earlier by our superstar panelist, Lauren the Insider. And what a superstar panel it has been today. Thank you so much to all of you, but hold on, because we're just going to reveal our Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. Dan Grant nominated David Lammy, Calamity Lammy. That was, of course, before he'd been sacked as Deputy Prime Minister, but still it's good news and he's still nominated. Liz Truss was nominated by Lauren the Insider for banning Rupert Lowe, and Tommy from CPAC and George nominated Lord Hermer. Also, now out as Attorney General. Very good news. The results are in. 15% of you going for Liz Truss. The runner-up, Lord Hermer, with 26% of the vote. And today's Union Jackass, the worst Briton in the world today, with 59% of your vote. The former Deputy Prime Minister, Calamity Lammy. Lauren the Insider, you're nominating our Greatest Britain today. Who have you gone for?
I've gone for Katie Hopkins because I was watching some old clips last night and she was talking so clearly and so well and so many years ahead of the rest of, the mainstreamers about the grooming gangs. She spoke about how women or young children were looked at like lollipops that had dirt on, and that's how some people were being taught about white children in mosques. And Katie's lost a hell of a lot. She's come through it and, she's a true patriot. But it just never ceases to amaze me that a mother who blows the whistle and tries to get the truth out has the entire mainstream media come for them. And so I just thought, you're great, Katie. I think you're awesome. So you should be the Greatest Britain today.
Very, very good choice, Lauren the Insider. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Peter C. Barnes. You've got to follow his amazing Substack. George Gilbert and Emma Dunwell and Dan Grant, the British Stand, all brilliant superstars of the new independent media. Thank you so much. What a day. What a day. Oh, my God.
Big
Literally,
news day, isn't it?
Yeah, did not stop. Did not stop. That did not stop.
Not ended yet.
No, indeed, it's not, because we don't know what some of these cretins are going to be doing to our country. But of course, we'll have all of that on tomorrow's show, because right now we've got to head over to Substack because there's huge royal news too. The Royal News Network standing by. I will team up with Brittany at www.outspoken.live. But thank you so much for your company on this big day of breaking news. We will be back with you live tomorrow, 5 p.m. UK time, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Remember to hit subscribe right now on YouTube. Turn on the notification bell. Do subscribe to our podcast too on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And most importantly, I promise to always keep fighting for you.